Welcome everybody. Welcome to our March 12th Village Board meeting. We have a pretty full agenda, and I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first thing on the agenda is we get the distinct privilege of honoring Trustee Trout. All right, so we're going to kind of all migrate over to the microphone, all of us.
All of us? Okay.
All of us.
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. Come on. You're right up front.
Test.
Yeah. It's not often we get to honor somebody who's had such a lengthy career with the village of Rhinebeck, with 10 years of service, that Howie has served the village and served the village well. We're proud to have him on our board. He's been a delight, he's been joyful, he's been a pleasure to work with, and he's been actually contributing a lot to everything that we have done over the last 10 years. I've had the privilege of working with Howie since 2015, and I've enjoyed it all, and I'm really looking forward to having him continue in some aspect in working with the village, being involved and staying with everything that we're doing, because it'd be a shame to give that up. Don't you think?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
So we have several accolades to give him. The first, we're going to do this in order of rank. Okay, so rank means we start with our county executive, Marcus Molinaro, and I'm going to read this for you.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, so this is Dutchess County Executive Proclamation. Whereas Village Trustee Howie Trout is retiring after 10 years of dedicated public service to the residents of the village of Rhinebeck, and whereas he has worked tirelessly to better the community and his many contributions to the Rhinebeck community and the county have been invaluable, and whereas he graduated from the Rhinebeck High School, lifelong resident, earned a bachelor's degree from Pace University and is a sales representative for Dutchess Beer Distributors, and whereas a lifelong resident, Trustee Trout and his wife Maria have 2 adult children, and whereas Trustee Trout's spirit, accomplishments, and dedication to the community is truly outstanding and worthy of recognition. And now therefore, I, Marcus J. Molinaro, County Executive of Dutchess County, do hereby applaud the accomplishments of Trustee Howie Trout and extend my heartfelt gratitude for your years of dedicated service to the village of Rhinebeck, and best of wishes in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Next, we have a distinguished guest representing Sue Serino's office.
Which side do you want me
That's good.
Okay.
This is my better side.
to?
Unfortunately, Senator Serino was in Albany today and she couldn't get here, so you sort of got second best person, me. And these proclamations given out by Senator Serino are rarely given, Howie. This is a real special treat. We usually give out certificates, but the senator felt very strongly that you were well deserving of this. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but it says, from time to time, this legislative office takes note of certain extraordinary individuals it wishes to recognize for their valuable contributions to the success and progress of society, and publicly acknowledge their endeavors which have enhanced the basic humanity among us all. And I think that pretty much sums up your career for the last 10 years. And on behalf of Senator Serino,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. By the way, I graduated way back in 1976 from Rhinebeck High School.
We went and made something really special for Howie, something that we've never done before. It's kind of the first of its kind. So Pat and I worked together on collaborating our efforts to really make a plaque that we think was commemorative of the service that Howie has given. And what I'd like to show this to you is really the key the first time a key to the village of Rhinebeck has been given to any resident here in the village. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
The Village of Rhinebeck does hereby present Howard Trout with this award in recognition of your 10-year commitment and dedication to the service of the Village of Rhinebeck Board, March 2019.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bassett. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard.
I'm going to miss you. I'm just around the corner from you, don't worry. I'm not leaving town or the village.
Anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I have a little speech here. I had to write it down. I'm honored and humbled to receive this service award plaques from the State Senator Serino and County Executive Molinaro and also Mayor Bassett. In January, I decided not to run for village office. I created a 10-year self-imposed term limit for myself, that's kind of redundant, to give someone else a new chance to serve on the board. I would like to thank my wife, Luciana, for putting up with a late-night request for dinner after a village board meeting. Don't worry, there was always a meal to be microwaved, so I never went hungry, as you can see. Luciana came all the way from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to find me. She's the girl from Ipanema, and now she's small town, just like me. A couple of musical chimes in there, if you can recognize them. I would also like to thank the rest of my family for supporting me the last 10 years. My son Nick and my daughter Bianca, and my mother and father, who would be here, but they're under the weather and couldn't make it tonight. My 3 brothers, Jerry, Ron, and Tom, former supervisor Tom, and their families. Now I'd like to name the people who I served with on the board over the years. Mayor Jim Reardon, trustees Wayne Reifenberg, Barbara Kraft, Sven Beecher, Brant Nuneker, Terry Gibson, Heinz Sauer, Gary Kenton, Mayor Heath Tortorella, trustees Scott Cruikshank, Sean Kemp, Gina Fox, and the current board, Mayor Gary Bassett and Brant Nuneker again, Rick Lewitt, and John Rossi. I'd like to note that Clerk Pat Kuhn has been here for all those years I've been here, and probably 10 or 15 years before me, right, Pat? Okay, in closing, I'd like to say that I always had the village residents in mind when making decisions on the village board. After all, they were all the ones who elected me. Now a quote from my favorite late-night talk show host, Johnny Carson. Anybody here remember him? His last words before signing off on his last show, "I bid you a very heartfelt good night." Well, I say I bid you a very heartfelt thank you for allowing me to serve you these 10 years.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to say something to Howie on his last?
You should have come to my house.
Oh, that was about 35 years ago. It lasted, right?
It did.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You should have had something that you can set up in front of you for the rest of the night. We also have one more commemoration that we would like to give this evening. It's been a long time coming. It was actually supposed to come at the annual Firefighters Recognition Dinner back in January. So I'd like to ask for Chief Kyle Amy to come forward, please. And I'd like to invite Lester. Please come up. Good tip of the mic, don't stand. Come on up. Get up here. I'm good. You're good. All right. So I've had a privilege of working with the fire department over several years, being involved in another fire department, and also now being as the mayor and the liaison to the fire department. It's been a real privilege and an honor to work with them, watch them do their service and their commitment to the village, and to be able to recognize somebody that has a long time dedication as well to the village of Rhinebeck and the fire department. I'm just going to read some facts about Lester so that you're all aware. Lester joined the fire department in October of 1986. In 32 years of service, Lester held the position of lieutenant and captain over those 32 years. In 1991, he received a life-saving award for performing CPR on a young child involved in drowning. In 2006, Lester became a life member of the fire department. In 2016, he was awarded the Outstanding Service Award for 30-year dedication to the Rhinebeck Fire Department. To this day, he continues to contribute all the requirements of being an active firefighter, and that's outstanding for somebody that has that kind of commitment. It's just amazing. So Lester, is a true definition of the senior guy in the fire department, and he continues to maintain a very high call volume, and maintains his drills and his requirements, meeting all the requirements of every year to be certified to be able to do this. So it's great to have somebody with this experience to pass that knowledge on to all of our younger members. I think that's truly noble of you. So, so with Chief Amy, we'd like to present you with the Lifelong Service Award, for your dedication to the village of Rhinebeck Fire Department. All right, next on the agenda. Tonight is a public hearing night, and we're having a public hearing on the Mill Street vehicle and traffic. So I'd like to make a motion to open the public comment and the public hearing session for the purpose of this.
Second?
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Rossi to introduce it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor and I spoke just briefly before this evening, and we thought it might be useful to quickly have me provide the background of how we got to this moment and what we'll be talking about. So, many months ago, a developer brought to our Planning and Zoning Board a site plan to develop the Hobson property on Route number 9 into a farm stand. And there were several meetings that took place, several meetings, but the really meaningful ones took place on October the 16th at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, and then again on November the 6th. In fact, on November the 6th, there was a public hearing for the site plan, and then ultimately on a meeting of November the 20th, the Planning Board approved the site plan, and that with one issue, and that issue is what we're going to hopefully resolve tonight. That issue is the desire to create a no parking on Mill Street. So Mill Street, of course, is the street that is behind what will now be the future farm stand, which is currently the Hobson's property. And right now, you can park there. It's unfettered. You can park whenever you want. What we're proposing this evening is a resolution that will restrict parking. There will be no parking available anywhere from Route 9 all the way down the east side, which is where the houses are, the residential properties are, along Mill Street. We will also restrict parking 340 feet, 320 feet from Route 9 along the west side of Mill Street. I should also mention that, folks, there's the developer is required to provide a certain number of spaces. They actually have exceeded that number of spaces on their property. So I believe it's 16, and there's probably going to be enough for 18. But we're concerned that, well, what if it's really popular and gets busy? Where would that overflow parking be? And so what we've done is develop what we think is a good solution that restricts it completely on the east side and restricts it from 9 or 320 feet on the west side. With that, I'll turn it back to Mayor Bassett.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is read the resolution before we start the comment section so everybody's aware of what the resolution says. Whereas the attached amendments to Chapter 109 Vehicle and Traffic Code was introduced by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rhinebeck today, March 12, 2019. And whereas a public hearing was being held on today, March 12, 2019 at 7 o'clock at Village Hall, 76 East Market Street. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rhinebeck determined this action to be a type 2 action based on the criteria found in 6, and we're going to forget about all the other nomenclature about, and therefore had determined that there are no adverse environmental impacts associated with the adoption of this local law. Okay, so now I would like to open up for, I'll go to the definition. The name of the street is Mill Street. The east side, from the east curb line of the intersection with State Route 9 to South Parsonage Street. Mill Street West, from the west curb line of the intersection of State Route 9, 320 feet south thereof. State Route 9 east and west from the curb line of Mill Street south to the town village line. Okay? So now I'd like to open up for public comment. Please come forward. Yes, we ask you to just introduce yourself. Speak at the microphone.
Hi, I'm Elisa Quitney. I'm at 17 Mill Street, and I appreciate the proposal to restrict the parking, because for my house and I know for my neighbors, if we are to get a delivery of oil, you know, there would be no way, if there were other cars in the way, then we would not be able to have our you know, oil deliveries. It's a pretty narrow street. And my neighbors, the McGraths, were not able to be here tonight. One of them's watching the kids and one of them's working, but they gave me a letter to give to you.
Thank you. You're more than welcome to read the letter if you would like.
I can if you would like me to.
Sure, why don't we enter it into the record?
Okay. Thanks. This is a test to see if my bifocal contact lenses work, right? All right. This is from Nicole and Michael McGrath at 15 Mill Street. Dear members of the Village Board, we are writing in regards to the proposed changes to parking on Mill Street, as we are unable to attend the meeting in person. We are in favor of either making Mill Street a resident-only parking street or eliminating public parking altogether. Mill Street is already a narrow road, and vehicles consistently drive much faster than the speed limit. Currently, cars rarely park on Mill Street, as there is really no need. We are concerned that if there is a rear entrance to the Heermans parking lot on Mill Street, our residential street, overflow cars and delivery trucks will park directly in front of our house as well as our neighbors. We have very young children and already deal with traffic safety issues when they are playing in the driveway or riding their bicycles. The on-site parking and loading area approved for Heermans should be enough to satisfy their needs. Therefore, there should be no need for on-street parking or any opposition to eliminating public parking on Mill Street or converting it to resident-only parking. Our fear is that employees and delivery trucks from the farm stand will be parked in front of our house all day, making our street inherently more dangerous and create visibility issues for the residents on Mill Street when we are pulling in and out of our driveways. Please, help us to preserve the feel and safety of our beautiful residential street and prevent it from transforming into a hazardous, high-traffic eyesore. We thank the board for taking the time to consider our serious concerns and protect our residential neighborhood and children. Sincerely yours, Nicole and Michael McGrath.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are they along Wall Street? I'm just trying to.
Oh, okay,
I don't know the
so,
numbers on.
you know, even I get confused. So there's the stone house at the corner that's, you know, when you turn in from 9. And then there's Gloria's house, except Gloria's not there. And then there's the McGraths.
Okay.
And then there's us.
Okay.
And then there's the house that used to be the Marvin's house.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine. So there's actually no parking in front of their house. There would be no parking.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they have, again, you know, they have young children, and their concern is, you know, particularly with that safety issue. But yeah, it is a narrow street, and right now it is just, you know, it is not a street where people park, I mean, except I guess for the Memorial Day parade, you know, but, so. Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much, and by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else with public comment? Having no other public comment, I make a motion to close the public comment session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Now we're into the public hearing session. So this is where we get to comment and make a vote. Any comments from the board?
So this is really a recommendation of our police department for safety of emergency vehicles to be able to circulate if necessary, and also because the sight lines on Mill Street for people coming off Route 9, there's no parking because that can be an especially narrow, difficult place. That's really the purpose of these regulations.
Right?
When we first saw this about 3 months ago, this was the draft we had. Then 2 months ago, it was changed just to 320 feet on both sides of the street.
The east side is completely moved, the no parking, which is the resident side, the entire east side, according to the resolution. But
Right.
you're correct, the west side, which is the farm side, it's 320 feet from 9 down Mill Street, that's restricted. There's no parking.
Right, but the last thing I saw was 320 feet on both sides. This was the original one, then it went to 320 on both sides. Now it's back to the original one. Because my contention is I don't see why we have to have no parking when, on the whole side of the street when there isn't a problem yet. In the future, if there's a problem coming up, then we can look into it. But we have streets in the village that have no parking already, and it doesn't make sense to me to have no parking there when there isn't a problem yet.
Are you talking on the east side or the west side?
Well, the one side we want to have no parking from Route 9 all the way to South Parsonage.
Right. And that's for safety concerns.
Right. Perceived safety concerns
Correct.
that aren't there yet.
You're certainly correct, it may be that there's never a problem.
Right.
The
Right,
the 16 spots, actually the 18 spots is more than required in the site plan, but the planning boards felt that what if this is really successful and there's now a need for off-street parking, and we took that obviously seriously, and that's where we engaged Chief Emmy and Sergeant Dunn to give us their views, and they said, well, look, if there's going to be parking, here's what we recommend from a point of view of public safety.
But then there were a couple other views on a planning board that said they would like to keep it parking there so that if the business does become successful, they don't have to take from the farmland to create more parking over there.
That is correct, but ultimately, it was voted 3-2 by the planning board majority. But you are, Trustee Tribe, you're absolutely correct. There were opinions that supported that position. That's correct. But it was a minority opinion.
Okay.
Any other comment? Since this is a resolution, I'm going to what's the sequence? Do I call for vote or do I close the public hearing first? I forget.
Close public hearing.
Yes. And I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. So this, on resolutions, I think it's important to do a roll call vote. So what I'd like to do is call each trustee and have them make their vote. So I'll just start on my left. Trustee Rossi.
I support the resolution, Mayor.
Trustee Nurker.
Aye.
Trustee Trout.
No.
Trustee Lewitt.
Aye.
I also vote aye. So the measure is, the hearing vote is passed 4-1 for approving this resolution on March 12th, 2019. Okay.
And we can change it back if it's...
Yes, that's right. If something happens, we can always, just what's not, we can. Okay, moving on. Next on the agenda, public comment. I'd like to make anybody who would like to have a public comment, please raise your hand, be identified, and come forward and speak up to the microphone. Do we have a list?
There's only 5 names, 7 names on it.
Okay. I believe some of these names are not on there for public comment. They just signed it because there is confusion about being registered. Paul, do you have a public comment? Alyssa has left. Tom, do you have a public comment?
I just have a question on this.
Sure.
So the resolution, do I have to go? No. The
Yes,
resol-
I'd like to have you come up, sir.
All right. Just a question in reference to the resolution. So it is not a resident-only parking, it's strictly no parking anyway, right? This resolution, I didn't see that.
Right.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Yep.
Okay.
Next on the list, it looks like Matt Sutter?
So,
Sutter?
can we public comment about anything?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what public comment is for.
So,
Yeah.
Mayor Gary, I sent you an email last week about a couple issues on Platt Avenue, Matthew Sun 26 Platt Avenue. We do have a catch basin next door to us that is damaged, and it kind of overflows when we have severe weather, severe rain. And it does kind of cause a lot of flooding in our front yard, which I do fear is going to eventually creep into my house, into my basement. I'm curious, what is the timeline it takes to get kind of things resolved and repaired, or what is the process?
And this is the one where we have the cone set up, that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that we've identified. Yeah, so we are aware, as I mentioned in my email to you, that we are very much aware of that catch basin. And during the winter months, we're not doing anything because we can't do any repair. And I believe this is Trustee Lewitt who has the responsibility for the highway department.
Right, we have,
You know,
I said we have budgeted in for catch basin repair and replacement.
Okay,
I think
for
you're-
this year?
Yeah, for this upcoming year.
Excellent.
And that's something that we want to be doing on a regular basis. And I think that you're talking about the corner of Platt and Mulberry?
No.
Down the street,
Down the
about
street.
halfway down,
Okay,
on the south side.
on the south side, okay.
It is, it's not only is it sinking, there's a, I mean, I've looked at this. I'm very much aware of it, because we have a plate there right now that kind of prevents, there's a hole in front of it as well, so everything's kind of collapsing around it. And this was really brought to our attention a lot in the fall time, and we were not able to get to it due to our schedules and work schedule in terms of leaf pickup and everything else, but we put the cones around for safety so we could get back to it as
Okay.
soon as weather prevails.
All right.
So we're very much aware of it,
All right, so keep me in touch then.
yes.
Thank you.
May Rossi? May, do you want to?
She's gone.
There she go?
She left. She was just here for trustee Trout.
Oh, okay.
She was.
That's good. Shirley Stone? She left as
She
well?
was just here for trustee Trout as well.
Don't they want to comment?
They don't want to be late for dinner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Donna Warner?
Thank you. Donna Warner, Beach Street, and congratulations, Howie, on your 10 years, and
Thank you.
maybe it felt longer. But I feel like you're going away somewhere, and I just want to,
No, I'm not leaving.
I
the
know,
village.
because it's fun to run into you.
And
at
I
the
didn't
fair.
really retire because I don't get a pension from this.
Yeah. But congratulations, it's wonderful that you have been here. I just want to follow up on a letter I sent last month when the meeting was canceled because of the weather. And I don't know if this is okay, but I referenced some documents, and I wanted to simply provide the second page, which is just a list of references around the short-term rental issue. So I have some copies, and you don't need to change anything. I just wanted to share mostly legal reviews and some other documents if you're interested. So I'll give these to Pat. And then I did want to say one other thing. As you may have followed in, this is in the news every day, but over 2-3 years, the short-term rental issue has kind of gone through a progression from original kind of awareness to then all these communities trying to control and so on, and then we've gone into an enforcement phase. And there was an interesting article, and I'm sure people saw it, about a community in Florida that has, in part of Miami, a neighborhood that decided to
Flamingo Park.
Flamingo Park, and they clearly want to maintain the character of their neighborhood, and they have a force. It's really quite interesting with people in uniform and cars that say code enforcement driving around, knocking on doors at night and telling people who rented illegal Airbnbs that they have to leave. And the owners are being fined, or the landlords, $20,000 for the first offense. So that's a rather, on the continuum of enforcement, this is probably the most strongest, I don't know what to say. And anyway, I want to just mention one thing. We talked about 6 months ago, I think, about about density of short-term rentals in the village of Rhinebeck, or that they might be less than 1% or 1% of the total housing stock. And I think it's important to look at that idea of density and impact a little bit differently. For every short-term rental, there are usually somewhere between 4 and 6 houses nearby that are impacted. So I think if you're looking at impact, I would just suggest considering that, say, for 30 short-term rentals, the impact might be on 120 homes. That would be next door on each side, behind, across the street. It could be 6. And there are even, I found one community where they actually draw a map, just as we would for a public, if there was a notice of a public hearing, and it says the homeowner has to go and make formal notice to each and every one of these neighbors. And it was somewhere between 4 and 6 houses. So I just think it's important to be aware that the impact is greater than just the number. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else for public comment?
Thank you.
Having none, we'll move on to the next. Treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you. The treasurer's report is for the month ending February 28th. The tax collector account ended the month with $378,399.44. The general fund ended the month with $17,527.50. The water fund ended the month with $254,610.25. And the sewer fund ended the month with $459,536.45. The New York class short-term liquid investments in the general water and sewer funds are yielding well at 2.27%. Vouchers presented for payment in the general fund total $106,023.14. In the water fund, $30,368.34. In the sewer fund, $24,326.09. There was one bill for the ADA lift in the amount of $753.50, and one escrow bill for $92.50. An operating statement is provided for the revenue and expenditures through March 12th of 2019. The water and wastewater, the billing and adjustments have been reviewed and signed off by the Water and Wastewater Department liaisons and are presented for authorization.
I make a motion to accept the wastewater revisions as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
And I make a motion that we approve the water adjustments as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
Okay, next is the budget amendments, and I will try and go through them quickly. In the general fund, request for $750 from contingency to the planning fees non-employees to contract a planning board minutes clerk for meetings. From the donation line item to the police equipment line item, $6,299 to allocate a donation for the solar speed signs that was received and purchased out of the police equipment budget. A correction to the allocation of a split salary to decreasing the building salary and increasing the fire salary, just to correct the split salary allocation. A request to increase the following line items: records management, $175. The clerk, deputy clerk treasurer training, $500. The line item in the fire department for the volunteer firefighter cancer policy, $3,185. The disability insurance, $1,262. In the highway garage utilities, $750. Highway garage heating oil, $765. And snow removal supplies was over budget by $4,500. I'm requesting those be decreased from the retirement ERS for $2,500 and the retirement police for $8,637. These annual bills were paid and remain under budget. In the water fund, an increase to the water administration training of $267. Disability insurance, $447. In the sewer fund, an increase to the disability insurance of $200.
Karen? Okay, I move that we accept the budget amendments.
Second. Now discussion?
Okay. Karen, when we were doing the highway budget a couple weeks ago, I thought a couple of these lines were under. I assume we got a bunch of late bills. Is that what happened?
They weren't late, we just haven't received the utility bills at that time.
Okay.
So,
So it changes.
and the snow removal, we just got all of the bills from the whole winter a couple times.
So let's hope for no more snow.
Yeah. No, and I just wonder if we should, if based upon this, we should change our baselines at all.
Well, I think we can certainly, I'll update this when I update the operating statement, and on the 26th, when you review the budget, you can certainly take a look at that.
Okay.
All in favor of accepting the budget amendments as read?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Very good. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, I have one last
Yep.
item. For the 2019-2020 budget, we received the village's assessed valuation from the county in the amount of $392,922,482, and this is up $1.325 million from last year. As the budget officer, I will file the tentative budget with the village clerk on March 20th. And on March 26th at 7 p.m., a budget workshop will be held for the board to do a final review of the budget. And the public hearing for the budget is set for April 9th at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Very good. Okay, next on the agenda is police and court. I will read the record for the police and court. We're playing a little bit of catch-up since the last monthly meeting was canceled due to weather. So I'm going to read the January report first. Total number of incidents in the town, 23. Total number of incidents in the village, 82. Total number of tickets, town, 19. Total tickets, village, 144. Number of arrests, 6. Total number of accidents were 7. And the number of snow ordinance tickets issued was 39. And then I'd also like to comment that $354.50 were received from the Bulletproof Vest Program, which is 50% reimbursement of a bulletproof vest total cost. So we're happy to receive that. Now for the month of February, total number of tickets in the town, 21. Total number of incidents in the village, 92. Total number of tickets in town, 21. Total number of tickets in the village, 106. Total arrests were 2, and then total accidents were 10. Going into court, I'd like to read we get these on a bi-monthly, so this takes us back to December. For December, court summary, the tickets that were completed from both court sessions and mailed in for the month were 150, and the revenue from the state was $4,836.50. Any questions on police and report to the board? I'm going to go into the fire department reports. Fire department reports. Again, I have 2 months' worth of reports. The first one is for February, which actually covers January. For the month of January 2019, there were a total of 86 calls. There were 13 fire calls, 67 EMS calls, and 6 motor vehicle accidents. We responded to our mutual aid department 7 times. The ambulance did not respond to 13 calls, therefore the percentage was 80.59%. For the month of February, there were a total of 83 calls. There were 23 fire calls, 59 EMS calls, 1 motor vehicle accident. They responded to mutual aid departments again 7 times. The ambulance did not get out on 7 calls, therefore the percentage of coverage was 85.24%. On Saturday, February 23rd, they had 21 members complete the defensive driving class, held here at Village Hall. And on February 26th, the EMS officers attended the EMS Summit meeting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. put on by the Hudson Valley Regional EMS Council. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss the challenges squads are facing throughout the region and discuss immediate short-term and long-term solutions to those challenges. Any questions on the fire department? None. Building, planning, and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just have these numbers read into the record. Latest planning and zoning report. Building department, 2 CO and municipal searches for a total of $300. 5 building permits for a total of $2,115. And 3 fees and miscellaneous fees and approvals for $525. A total of $2,940. That's it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're also going to give a brief comment on the Northern Dutchess Hospital.
Yes. So I think folks know that there has been an ongoing dialogue, first between the Planning and Zoning Board and folks from the Northern Dutchess Hospital seeking an expansion of their property. And of course, that conversation has moved now to the Village Board. And we're close to some sort of draft that ultimately will go to a public hearing that is would establish a medical zoning district. If you don't know already, the hospital is actually in a residential district, and so when they need to do things, they have to come for zoning variances all the time, and it just would be more logical to have a hospital district, we think. So we're moving in that direction, and we're down to a couple of items that have remained kind of debatable, but they're with the attorneys representing both the village board and, of course, the council for the hospital. That's where we're at, Mr. Mayor, until we can get the final legal opinion to reach some common ground on these last 2 items. There's really nothing we can do, but of course, once that's done, and we expect it to be hopefully shortly, then we'll reconvene.
And are we gonna have one more workshop before we go to public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, Brandon, correct, yes. Trustee Nudiger is correct. We would do one more workshop, and then hopefully that would be the final document that we'll take to a public hearing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Highway.
Okay. The highway department has been out plowing and salting regularly. I'm sure you've heard the trucks rumble by at about 4:30 in the morning. Their goal is to have the streets ready for the morning commute. And so if you hear them at that hour, you know what they're doing it, so that basically when it's time for people to get to work, they can do it. They've also been out clearing catch basins from snow so that the streets can drain. I do want to bring up a couple of things. At one of our last meetings, we had agreed to hire a part-time laborer. And the young man who we were looking at actually did not take the position. He was able to find another job, which is actually paying $6 an hour more than what we were able to offer him. So I just want to throw that as a data point. We do have another application from a man named Damon Potts. He is currently part-time at the town highway department. I think he also works for the Rhinebeck School District, and he would like to apply for the job. He has a CDL permit, but not his CDL license yet. This just came in. What I would like to propose is that John Fenton, Mike Wolf, and myself have a chance to interview them, and we'll bring back a recommendation. Maybe we can do it in the meeting in 2 weeks, so we can move along.
I'd just like to correct one thing, that these aren't part-time, they're call-in laborers.
Call-in laborers, okay.
They're
sorry.
call-in laborers.
Fair.
So, just,
Terminology counts.
yes, sorry.
Call-in laborers. So that's the highway department.
Anything else?
That's
Do you want to mention it, we received the report?
Oh, sorry, right, okay, yes, let me go get it, actually.
Well, you don't have to.
Okay, well, I can. Yes. So one of the things that we've been working on for a while was Gina Fox was able to secure a grant from the county to have a study done of how we can best share services between the town and village highway departments. So we had a RFP went out in the fall. We awarded the grant to the college at Brockport, State University of Brockport. There's a group up there that basically does these kinds of studies specifically. This is what they specialize in. They're mostly former highway guys themselves, so they know what they're talking about. We've received the final report. It just came in. I've been reading it. It's dense. We are going to have, in early April, both the mayor, John Fenton, and I are going to have a conference call with the writers of the report, and then there will be a public meeting with the village board and the town board, where they're going to present the findings, and we can talk about where to go from there. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Water Department.
Okay, from February's report, the electricians are continuing to work on the low lift pump station. They're they finished work on the raw water pump one. And meter readings have been completed and synced. I just wanted everyone to know that we're working on the water line project now, which is the replacement of the water lines on Route 9, on Livingston, Chestnut, and Platte. And the letters have gone out to all the consumers, users in that area. And we've been knocking on doors. We need to inspect the water meter inside the homes to find out what the composition of the service line is going into those properties. So if you've received the letter, please call the water department and set up an appointment. We still have maybe 40 or 50 people that have not responded, and we have not inspected their service lines to determine whether it's good copper or whether it's going to be like a galvanized service line. I know the gentleman said that he lived on Platte Avenue. I don't know, did you call the water department?
I don't think I did yet.
Okay. So folks like you need to call the water department. 876-7331, right? And let's set up an appointment. We're trying to basically audit all these and make sure what the scope of work is for the contractor to do the water line project. Donna?
How does this in any way impact the cross streets? You know, so where Mulberry crosses Platte and Livingston and...
Well, Mulberry already has a really good main water line, so it's pretty much Mulberry and points west, except for, what is it, Livingston goes all the way, no, one of them goes all the way to the beach. Chestnut goes all the way to the beach.
Livingston goes all the way to the beach.
The water, I mean, the replacement water
Yeah,
line.
I'm sorry, it's Platte and Chestnut are going to Mulberry, Livingston.
Goes all the way to the beach. Okay, so
Sorry.
you will probably get a boost in your water pressure.
Sorry.
So,
We are going to hold an information session. Right,
Yeah, so-
in the future.
they're working on the bid documents right now to go out to the contractors, and I think we should determine when that workshop's gonna be. Maybe, we're gonna meet next Tuesday or
The 26th?
2 weeks?
2 weeks. Yes.
I was actually shooting for that April 20, we have a meeting on, or no, we do not have a meeting on April 23rd. I was hoping maybe to have a workshop on, that's a Tuesday, I believe, 2 weeks after our April meeting. So tentatively, I'm thinking,
Okay.
let's
Will
set
we
that.
have the bid documents back, you're hoping by then?
They were supposed to be done, but
Right.
yes, they're definitely in the works and near completion. So let's
Okay.
think about April 23rd as a workshop day.
Yeah, I think that's important. I know many of us have probably been getting calls about the connection, which you explained very well. So I think it's important that we have an information so people can understand
Right.
what we need to do.
And there will be other letters too, notifying the people affected of the steps in the project. So we're going to be communicating closely with everyone. That's all I have.
Now, so drum roll for the last wastewater report. Thank you.
Okay. Wastewater report for February 2019. Wastewater treated was 3.7 million gallons. Gallons of sludge processed was 44,900 gallons. And pounds of sludge processed was 4,805 pounds. I'm going to miss these interesting reports. But I've been told I can always go down to the wastewater department anytime I want for a little visit. And everything seems to be running smooth down there.
Thank you, Howard.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept all of the department reports as read.
Second.
Any discussion on any? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Thank you. Next, we're going to go into committee reports. First report is the Autism Awareness Committee. The Autism Awareness Committee has been meeting regularly to promote autism, to make the village of Rhinebeck an autism supportive community and be one of the first in the region to be able to do that. Well, today I'd like to just go over briefly our vision, the mission, and some goals for the Autism Awareness Committee. So our vision is to make the village of Rhinebeck supportive, sensitive, engaging, and welcoming for individuals with autism and their families. Our mission, to promote understanding of and provide support for inclusion and acceptance of people with autism through engaging, training, and educating the village community. We have some goals. Our goals are to hold 6 public forums with opportunities for community members to receive education and training about the autism spectrum disorder, and increase the number of village businesses, organizations, or groups to do #OneThing to support the inclusion and acceptance of people with autism. We will be measuring these goals and reporting on these goals regularly. So far we've had 2 events. We're having a 3rd event this Saturday at Upstate Films, and it's going to be from noon to 2 p.m. Upstate Films is providing a film called Intelligent Lives, which is about people of all disabilities. And then after that, after that, we will have a panel, and there'll be experts there to address questions about disabilities as well as the autism spectrum disorder. So if you could please make that, I think it'll be a experience, and all the proceeds of that are going to this effort to provide training and education and hopefully tools to people in our community to be able to help this disorder. So again, I would appreciate anybody who could make Saturday noon to 2 at Upstate Films. We do have a structure, and the structure of this committee is made up of committee and advisors who have been meeting regularly, and a volunteer. And volunteers, to also have responsibility for missions within and responsibilities within that. For instance, our chair, Michelle Hughes, is also the lead for the stakeholder representatives. A stakeholder is the second tier beneath the committee, and a stakeholder represents a group, is a representative of various groups that represent a cross-section of the village. Example, faith-based religious organizations, retail, restaurants, village emergency services like fire, police, and our medical services, which includes the hospital in the village of Rhinebeck. And then the third is individuals who then are offering their support, volunteering their time and donations, for us to be able to contribute to do this through the month of June. The grant that was awarded covers us through June, and we're recording all of our events and our accomplishments through June for this support. The next tree committee.
So I'd like to report that once again that Rhinebeck for 2018 was named a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation. And the criteria for that is that, that the village has a tree committee, has a tree committee, I'm sorry, I just lost it. Okay, there we go. A tree committee or department, a tree care ordinance, an annual community forestry budget of at least $2 per capita, and an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. And what I want to say is that this lovely award, which we've received, I think, for 10 years now, is really due to the hard work of the tree committee. We have a group of volunteers who work very hard to keep Rhinebeck's green trees growing. They've been great about both monitoring trees when trees need pruning, when keeping an eye on the health of the trees. The tree committee also plants about 40 trees a year, 20 in the spring and 20 in the fall. They're expecting to plant another 20. I believe it's on April 27th. And we've had a lovely request from the Interact Club at Rhinebeck High School who would like to come out and also help plant the trees. And that's been something that we've been working on, is having the tree committee work a little bit more closely with the school, so the kids get a sense for trees, get a sense for planting. They provide good manpower, and it's been a nice partnership that's working out. So really, the thank you goes to the tree committee. They work really hard and really tirelessly. And so there are no tree removals or permits to be done at this time. But the tree committee, I'm just going to switch over here, is planning for, let's see, got this computer stuff down one day. 27th, I just want to check on the date. The tree committee is planning on the spring tree planting on April 27th, that's a Saturday. Along with the Interact Club, any volunteers are more than welcome to come. Basically, usually the village highway department digs the holes for the trees and helps distribute the trees to the locations. Volunteers come out on the day of. We put some fertilizer in the hole, we stand the tree up, we put some soil around it, see that it's set up right, put some stakes up to see that it's set, and basically push it on its healthy way. It's a very fulfilling morning to early afternoons task, and you really are contributing something to the long-term betterment of the village, because that tree should be there for decades and decades and decades. Yes?
We had 4 trees taken down from the end of Livingston Street last year. Do we know if we're on this list? Do we get any information beforehand about the
So
type or
basically,
anything?
the way the tree committee works is that they try to identify where they're going beforehand, and usually it's north side, south side of the village. You need to communicate to the tree committee where you have the sites, and then they would basically queue you up for planting.
You guys, they decided they had to come down, so they know the sites there.
Right, but it's really up to, these plantings are usually in an area called the Brow, which is just beyond the right of way. So it's really on homeowner's property, past the sidewalk. So a person has to ask to have a tree replanted on the property. The village can't just run over there and throw a tree in the ground. So if you'd like one,
You send an email.
So
send an email.
they took these are big old trees that were growing on between the sidewalk and the street. There were
Right.
4 down there, huge trees that were removed. So you're saying that they don't replant there, they plant on the lawn now?
Yeah, they're unlikely to replant them in between the sidewalk and the street, just because it tends to heave the sidewalk. And that's always one of the challenges we have, is that we all want beautiful trees, but we all want good sidewalks too. So trying to figure out how to minimize the tree root sidewalk collision is tough. So one of the moves that people have been making is to plant further back from the street so the tree is well clear. It also keeps the trees from being clipped by trucks. don't know if you look around the village, sometimes you'll see that there are trees that have kind of stunted limbs, 10, 15 feet in the air, and that's because they're getting hit by garbage trucks or trucks that are going through. So if we push them a little further back in, it gives them a chance to be healthier.
But also if there's wires there too, I don't know if you have wires on your side of the street? So the idea is to push them back, because I was on the tree committee too for a while. Push them back farther off the road so that they're not being cut by Central Hudson every 3 years.
So although as nice it is to have the trees close to the road because it cools everything down and it slows traffic down, practically I think we're learning that we need to put them a little further out.
I just wanted to, I brought this up after that tree planting in the fall when we had the rusty water, because you were using the hydrants to water the trees. I just wanted to remind you to please notify residents in the area so they do not have brown water and not know why.
How that water is being accomplished is still kind of TBD. If they're going to use the hydrants, they will call you or they will call the residents.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's not
you're
decided
in our
yet.
area this time, I don't think, but I just wanted to
It's,
put a little reminder out there.
it's noted. It's noted.
We're good, thank you. The Environmental Committee report, which I chair, this is a joint village and town environmental committee that's made up of members from both communities. Quite often we get together and we discuss policy, because that really is the main mission of the environmental committee, is to look for places where they can help influence things related to climate change, whether it be energy, water, waste, transportation, or enacting policy. One of the things we did at our last meeting was hear from the Citizens Climate Lobby. So we had a presentation from them. Just to give you a brief description, the Citizens Climate Lobby is an international grassroots environmental group that trains and supports volunteers to build relationships with their elected representatives in order to influence climate policy. And what they were presenting was a bill that has been introduced into Congress. And it's a bipartisan bill on a climate solution labeled HR 763. And it really is a dividend-generated bill which has a carbon fee associated with it and then a carbon dividend. So essentially what they are proposing is that people who use carbon-related fossil fuels get taxed at their source, and then that tax gets pushed back to all the residents within the country in terms of helping to offset that cost. So, and it's on a graduated scale, because what their goal is to, in 12 years, starting in 2016, is to reduce emissions by 40%, and by 90% by the year 2050. And so they're working vigorously to get lots of our representatives on board to talk and promote the Citizens Climate Lobby presentation. The Environmental Committee did not take any action on this. They listened and there's under further discussion. Howie, Parks.
No report from the Parks Committee.
Do we have one from the Emergency Committee? I saw Frank here. Is Frank still here? Emergency Management Committee. Yes, let me pull that up. Is Frank still here? No. Oh, yeah, printed out. I can read it. Okay, so report from the Emergency Preparedness Committee. The Emergency Preparedness Committee met for the first time on Thursday, February 21st at Town Hall. The main topic of this meeting was for notification process of how to notify residents in the event of emergency. They are continuing to get updates from the agency representatives on their resource list and beginning to survey facilities to update this information. Next meeting is scheduled for March 20th. Then on February 22nd, the chair, Frank Intervell, met with Rhinebeck Preparedness Healthcare Coalition Exercise Design Team. This team is meeting monthly in preparation for a regional preparedness drill for healthcare providers in the Hudson Valley, which will take place sometime in the spring. Our own Sergeant Pete Dunn of the Rhinebeck Village PD is attending this, and we will try to get a representative from the fire department at the next meeting. I'd like to talk briefly about the STR. I put out in my newsletter, and I announced 2 months ago that we had formed a team to address short-term vacation rental issues, right? And this is to address the code 12017 in our village code, which stipulates that a bed and breakfast establishment may be allowed in an owner-occupied single-family dwelling, or a room rental may be allowed in an owner-occupied single or two-family dwelling, only if the applicable special permit and site plan approvals have been completed. So we formed a team of people that consists of our village clerk, Pat Kuhn, Ryan Dowden, our building and zoning clerk, Pat Evans, a resident volunteer, and John Fenton, a code official, and they are addressing and collating the list. They've accumulated, thanks to some of you for your input, 30 to 35 properties that are advertising in this realm and are sending out, and letters were sent out yesterday, March 11th, to all of those residents to start bringing them into compliance and address those issues. If you have any questions, our coding officer is on vacation. He requests that you hold all your questions to a time when he returns from vacation so he can address them directly with you. It's as best as he is the most knowledgeable person to address those. So he will be back.
I'd like to make one correction. The letter's being sent out on March 15.
Oh.
Because John's not there, we did not want to inundate that office while he was not there. So
Oh,
the letters are
I'll
going
write that.
out on the 15th.
They're going on the 15th? All right. And then,
Question, Jared, can I just ask, will the copies of the letter be public, so when they go out, so we could see the letter?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
We can put that out on.
Where?
We can put it out on, we'll do the email normal media broadcast. How's that?
That's fine, or I can just ask Pat for a copy if it's a
Yeah,
public
Because
document.
we don't put, we don't put other letters to get sent out to
No.
No, you would
So,
strike the personal
we don't need-
stock letter,
but
yeah.
no letter, I mean, the water department letter is not public knowledge either. That's not on my website, or on the website. That's not being sent out by email draft or by email blast.
All
So
right, so why don't we make it so people can come in and get it?
if they want
Is
it, if
everybody
you
okay with
want it,
that?
I have it. I can email
Are
it
you
to
okay with that?
Sure.
All right.
But it shouldn't be public.
It is public, but I mean, I'm just making because the other letters that have been sent, the water was a prime example. That's not on our website. That's not done on email blast. That's
So be
not.
consistent.
Right, okay.
So feel free to come into the office, but reserve your questions for when our code enforcement officer returns.
When is he returning?
He'll be back in the office on Monday.
Also on the agenda, we had the Veterans Committee, which meets monthly. I'd like to talk a little bit about that because I think there's some exciting activities coming up with the Veterans Committee. At our last meeting in a week ago, we had a guest, Marlene Payne, who is the owner of Academic Canine Solutions, present to us. And Marlene led a discussion on the use of pets to support veterans. And our clerk, Pat Kuhn, participated in this because she's a very active pet owner and training her pet as well. And so our local veterans already provide, I want to make note that our veterans already provide a tremendous service to all of our veterans. And this is in no way to take away from any of those efforts, but it's to continue to do more as an organization and as a village to support our current vets that are out there and extend our outreach and support in more ways than they already do. So we focused on two possible causes that could be supported by this committee. The first was called Adopt a Pet. And it's really not adopt a pet permanently. It's really adopt a pet for an hour, adopt a pet for a half a day, take a pet for a walk. It's in order to get people who feel that they're homebound, to get them to come out, be able to partake, have a friendly conversation with a pet, and enjoy the day, and then return the dog to its owner or whatever. We also discussed what we call now the War Dog Program, and this one probably got the most attention. Through Marlena's efforts, she's connected to many people that are serving, that are responsible for our war dogs overseas. And the goal would be to identify them and then send care packages to them for the war dog. So what we would do is really then extend that outreach to overseas to support not only the veterans, but also now extend to recognize that war dog. So there's going to be a lot more discussion on this. We have not made any decisions, but I view this as an exciting program for our Veterans Committee to address. Grant Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So some of the grants we work on are really big, like the water main grant, we have a pending grant before the Department of Transportation that this village board submitted, we had two deadlines for that one, June of 2018 and September 2018 as well. We made those deadlines. We're pending. I update the mayor and the board on a regular basis. We don't know whether we'll be successful, but it is a $3.1 million grant should we be successful. And that is intended to make major renovations and improvements on our sidewalk. But I'm here to speak briefly about a much smaller grant, but one that's I think very important because it does work towards preserving much of the history and character of the village. We have a tight deadline. It's March 25th. This, for a small grant, is terribly complicated. I wouldn't be able to do it without the help of my latest grant committee assistant. And I need to get the board familiar and acquainted with it because I need your support as well. And I would ask if the board and the mayor would just indulge me. I wouldn't normally do this, but we always look for letters of support. You know, the grants say, hey, if you want to submit a letter of support, submit a letter of support. That means you have to submit letters of support, as we've come to learn. So this is a letter of support for a grant application that would further expand the historic district, which has not been expanded or revised since 1993, which time we have a very high number of homes designated in the historic district, 388. This grant would bring on a consultant that would expand that by another 150. We're talking about almost 1 out of every 3 houses in the village being of historical designation. You couldn't walk down the street without passing a house that would have this historic designation. To kind of just give you the relevance of this, Michael Gee, who is one of our planning board members, put together actually Michael and David Miller, the chair of the planning board, really were the proponents, the catalysts behind this grant. And Michael wrote a letter of support for the grant, and I'm going to read it very quickly if that's okay, because it's really rich with information and history that I'm going to dare say most people are not familiar with. The expansion would include Oak Street. And as you'll see in a moment, there was a reason why Oak Street was originally not included. I'm Michael Key, 35-year owner and resident of 15 Oak Street. I'm a retired teacher and a member of the Rhinebeck Village Planning Board. My mother was the Dutchess County historian from 1980 to 1990. She instilled in me my great interest in local history. Upon first moving here, I inquired to the local village historian, DeWitt Grinnell, if he had information on my house and neighborhood, Oak Street. He told me it was one of the first streets in the village populated by free slaves, long before the Civil War. That's how it was named Tar Park. Most of the African Americans were gone by the Civil War and were replaced by poor Irish immigrants. Systemic prejudice was practiced on Tar Pot neighborhood for at least 150 years, which is why it was not included in the first historical register in 1978. It is time to right that wrong. Rhinebeck's first village school is at 16 Oak Street and operated from 1844 to 1860. It was most likely built by the same carpenter who built the Delameter House in 1844. Michael goes on to talk a little bit more about some of the other history. That 1844 schoolhouse, right now, that owner, or if it were to change hands, they would have the right, if they chose, to have it completely destroyed, completely deteriorated, completely renovated, not renovated. Demolished, thank you. It's always good to have some crowd support. If we were able to, that's the status right now. This expansion, if we can move this forward, would protect that property and 140 others. But this is really a unique property. And Michael actually lives across from the schoolhouse. And it did change hands. Fortunately, the new owner is very supportive of keeping it intact, but we want the village to be able to have that further insurance. So the grant that we're working on is, I have the numbers here. Ultimately, what I'm going to suggest that we do is, it's a $17,500 grant, okay? That's all inclusive of all the details, and I have provided a copy of this to all the board members. What we're suggesting is that we do better if we ask for less than what's the total allotment. You could get as much as 80%. If you ask for 80%, you're not going to get the grant. So what we want to do is dwarf that, reduce that number. Ultimately, of the $17,500, we believe that we can do $2,500 with in-kind services, which of course we're familiar with from the EV grant. We could do another $7,375 from the grant, which would only be 42%, greatly making our success possibilities much stronger. Meaning, Mr. Mayor and the village trustees, we would have to then contribute $7,375 of our funds. So that's what I needed to kind of make everyone familiar with. We want to we'll file and move forward because there's never a guarantee that we're going to get this. If we do, I need for the board to know that we're going to come back and have to ask for $7,300. So don't have to give me a decision tonight, but that's the plan to move forward. And I'm happy if there's any questions.
I think the preservation of the village historic character is really important, so.
Yeah. And I should mention, Mr. Mayor, that we will be expanding the boundaries as we do this as well. I promised you a map, and I'll get you a better version of it. So we will expand the boundaries, we'll expand the designations, and we will make Rhinebeck even more historically notable. Hard to imagine that on per square footage you could have more properties of historical designations than the village of Rhinebeck. So thank you. Thanks for indulging me.
Moving forward, we have several special requests. I'm going to go through these. We have a request from Representative Antonio Delgado to use our space here at Village Hall. Thursday, March 21st, and use the big room upstairs from 9 a.m. to 11. You want me to go through them all, or do you want me to approve them one at a time? So I'd like to just get these approved. I'd like to make a motion that we approve Representative Antonio Delgado to use our village office space here, the big room upstairs on March 21st.
It's like a town hall meeting, is that what you're doing?
I think it says a small group of people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small group.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Very good, thank you. Next, Rhinebeck Democrats Farmers Market. So it's put on behalf of Rima Liscum to use the table at the farmers market on the west side.
There's actually two requests. One was back from the February meeting,
Okay.
and that's for the pant, and then one for the Democrats. I have them both on the spreadsheet.
Do you have the date? Because this doesn't have a date on it.
Yeah, the pant was for June 16, July 14, August 11, and September 22. That one came in first. The Democrats were for May 19, June 16, June 23, July 14, July 28, August 11, August 25, September 8, September 22, October 6, October 20th, November 3rd, November 17th. There's a conflict on the 4 dates of PANT, and I've emailed Rima, and I had mentioned to her that there's 4 conflicts because that one had come first, so that she can reschedule the other 4.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the use of the farmer's table.
Sure.
Subject to the pant restriction.
Yeah.
Can I just ask what's PAN?
Well,
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Is the it is, I have it. Partnership for Animals Needing Transition. It's like a rescue group. They've done it for the last, as long as we've been doing the tables over there, PANT's been over there.
And
They
just-
only do it 4 times a year.
Okay, just refresh my memory. How many tables are over there during one day? 2?
No, just one.
Just one.
Just one at a time?
And
It's only on the west side.
It's one group per weekend.
And we limit it how many times?
Oh, yeah, I know, twice a
Right,
month.
twice a month.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, the reason why I know that people at the farmer's market would like to make it clear that this is actually a municipally run table, because I know they've been getting some questions about who gets to be there, why are they there? It's not the farmer's market that's in charge, it's actually our table
Yeah, it comes through the village.
that comes through the village. It's not the farmer's market that runs the table, it's actually a municipal Rhinebeck Village function.
I have a motion to accept both requests pending the resolution of the dates.
I'll make a motion.
Second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, carried. The next is for the Rhinebeck Fire Department Balloon Fest. This is for the Rhinebeck Fire Department Entertainment, Inc., which is not the village fire department, it's the social side of the fire department, and Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce. They will apply to New York State Liquor Authority for permission to sell beer, wine, and events listed below. During these events, beer and wine will be sold for on-premise for consumption within the fenced-in area. The sales will occur during the following dates: July 12th, 13th, 14th of 2019 during the Hudson Valley Hot Air Balloon Festival by Rhinebeck Fire Department Entertainment, Inc. and the Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce.
They also had 2 applications. I had asked in parentheses because they also asked for the Dutchess County Fair as well.
All right, I think there's that in here as well.
Yes.
Want to talk about both of them?
Yes, August 20
Yeah.
through the 25th.
So this is for, I'll read it, we'll go over both of them. I represent, this is Dutchess County Agricultural Society and the Rhinebeck Fire Department Entertainment, Inc. and J&S Concessions to apply for a New York State Liquor Authority for permission to sell beer and wine at events listed below. During these events, beer and wine will be sold for on-premises consumption within the fenced-in area. The Liquor Authority has requested acknowledgement from the Village of Rhinebeck that you're aware of the above events and the proposed sales. The dates are August 20th through the 25th, 2019 during Dutchess County Fair and Dutchess County Agricultural Society, Inc. and the Rhinebeck Fire Department, along with J&S Concessions, will apply for the permits. I'd like to make a motion and get a second and we go into discussion. Make a motion to accept both applications for beer and wine sales at the fairgrounds.
May I ask a question?
One second. Don't get to you. Second? All right. Now we go into discussion.
So it's not really an application, we just have to tell the liquor authority that we know that it's happening. Right, that's really what it says.
Well, Pat, this is kind of like what we do for a store, I mean, a
Yes.
liquor store.
In fact, you have one of those
We have another
tonight.
one for when a business comes in and they
Yes.
want to get a liquor license, we have to approve that liquor license.
Okay,
At a
that's
business.
actually not how it, that's not how it
I
reads.
thought that we approved their ability to go get it.
Well, it just says, it requests acknowledgement from the village. Doesn't really say that. Doesn't say that we're voting it up or down, it just says that we've received these, that we acknowledge that we know that this is happening.
So I'd like to pick up your letter and make it part of the permit application process. So
Well,
it is our
that's-
recommendation, yes, to go forward.
Okay, that's not how I, okay, I guess we
That's
can
fine.
say, we can say that, but I don't, that's okay.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Because last year, I brought up this idea that we would, to request the fire department, we become additional insured on the dram shop insurance. And I talked to, and I just remembered this, I talked to John Imperato, right, Imperato, right? And he was not fond of the idea, he's a risk person, because he thought it would diminish their insurance coverage. So they don't want to add us as additional insured to the Village of Rhinebeck. I suggest that we look into getting dram shop insurance on those events and seeing how much it costs. So if you want, I'll pursue it and ask Rich. I mean, the problem is, you know, that's what dram shop insurance is for. They're going to sue everyone they can find, you know. And he indicated that even Rhinebeck Fire Department, Inc. is not additional insured. It's just their entertainment arm. You know, I suggest I can call Rich and just ask him for advice on what he thinks about this.
We tried to reach out to Rich today. Were you able to get a hold of him at all?
I sent him an email because Sergeant Dunn is abstaining from any recommendation or not regarding this topic. It's not the liquor license as a whole, it's because it's the RFD entertainment.
I think it's connected to what you're saying. So I believe Pat's reaching out to them.
Okay.
If you want to participate, that
Yeah.
you do.
I sent him an email today, I'll
I mean, it could be cheap, and we're just covering ourselves, you know? I mean, we just don't know.
I agree.
This is why you do dram shop, yeah. So,
Yeah, something, I agree, that's why we were reaching out today to
Yeah.
get a legal opinion on this. So, what is is there a recommendation to approve pending that, or how would you like to word this?
I think that's a good suggestion.
well, it could be complicated, but I'm willing to approve it, I just want to look into this aspect of it.
Yeah, I would approve it not pending, because we've done it in the past. Why overly make it overly complicated?
All right, so all in favor to approve the applications, you know, as so written? Aye.
I have to recuse myself because of
I know,
the beer.
yeah.
My company sells the beer.
Doesn't the hot air balloon festival start at 6 in the morning or something?
Yes, it does.
So are there any hour limitations on this, or?
That's up to the state liquor authority.
Oh, I see, okay.
Well, yeah. I don't think there's any, in our events code, I was wondering if we had a curfew, but maybe we don't, I don't remember.
I would like to make note that we've been in correspondence with the Chamber of Commerce and Dutchess County Balloon Festival in terms of their use of helicopter flight patterns over the village. Last year, there were several concerns over the issue of that, so we created what is, I would say, a no-fly zone, which is the perimeter of the village, and asked the company that's doing it, which I forget their name, to not be flying over the village for the purposes, because last year it was a continuous effort of just constant helicopter flights over the village. So they accepted that and actually gave us a letter in terms of, quote, our no-fly zone over the village of Rhinebeck for the helicopter, for the hot air balloon fest.
Can I go back to the letter for the RFD, because the letter will have to be, so you're approving, you're acknowledging the village of Rhinebeck that we're aware of the events and the proposed dates. That's no pending anything, it's
No
just.
pending anything.
Okay,
But we are going to look into the,
okay, I just wanted to be clear as to how to do the letter. Thank you.
okay. Next on the list is Parkinson's awareness. Dated February 4, 2019, dear Mayor Bassett, I'm again writing on behalf of Parkinson's Disease Support Group of the Mid-Hudson Valley, which I am the chair. As the Village of Rhinebeck has done for a number of years, we are respectively request that you join the U.S. Senate that each year declares April as Worldwide Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. Last year, the Village of Rhinebeck and 32 other Hudson Valley municipalities issued a similar proclamation for 2018, as did the New York State Senate and Assembly. We'd like to please join our 2019 effort as well. Respectfully yours, Nancy J. Redkey, Clove Mountain Road, Little Greenfield, New York. I'd like to make a motion.
Read the proclamation.
Do you want me to read the proclamation? I can read it. Do you want me to go through the whole proclamation?
I kind of.
Okay. At a request to read the proclamation, I will.
My father had Parkinson's.
Oh, well then that's, okay, I'm all about it. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological movement disorder of the central nervous system, which has a unique impact on each patient. And whereas according to the Parkinson's Action Network, the Parkinson's Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, the National Institute of Health, there are over 1 million Americans diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And whereas symptoms include slowness, tremor, difficulty with balance and speaking, rigidity, cognitive and memory problems, and whereas although new medicines and therapies may enhance life for some time for people with Parkinson's, more work is needed to cure, and whereas increased education and research are needed to help find more effective treatments with fewer side effects and ultimately cure Parkinson's disease. And whereas a multidisciplinary approach to Parkinson's disease care includes local wellness support, caregiver groups, and whereas April has been proclaimed as Worldwide Parkinson's Awareness Month for all to recognize the need for more research and help in dealing with the devastating effects of Parkinson's disease. Now therefore we, the Village of Rhinebeck, Mayor Gary Bassett, do hereby proclaim April as Parkinson's Awareness Month. Given under my hand these free United States in the Village of Rhinebeck on this day, 2019, 19, of which I have caused the seal of the village of Rhinebeck to be affixed and made this proclamation public. Any questions? I would still like to make the motion that we accept the proclamation for Proclamation of Waiver from April. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Thank you. Very good. And the last one. As we mentioned before, this is, as we do for other businesses, this is for a liquor license approval. This was sent to our village clerk, Pat Kuhn. Dear Ms. Kuhn, this is for 4T Fathoms LLC, known as the Krog. Okay, is that pronounced it right? K-R-O-E-G, Krog. 41 East Market Street, Suite 4, Rhinebeck, New York. Dear Ms. Kuhn, the office represents the above subject applicant with their license application for the premise so captioned, as required by ABC Law Section 110B. I, on their behalf, am notifying you of their intent to file an application for a liquor license with the New York State Liquor Authority. Pending a waiver from your municipality, a 30-hole before said application can be filed is mandated by the State Liquor Authority. If a waiver is to hold as an option, please refer to the attached sample waiver and provide same on your letterhead. Please feel free to contact this office if you have any questions regarding. So the way to hold is the Village of Rhinebeck acknowledges that a liquor license application be filed by the above caption for the location as so specified. In this instance, the Village of Rhinebeck waives its right to the 30-day hold and consents to the processing and issuing of the aforesaid license. Feel free to contact this office should you have any questions regarding the letter.
So
Okay.
I had a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. So I'll make a motion to accept it. I have a second.
A second.
Discussion?
Yeah, they had a public hearing on the planning board approval, special use permit on, did they get approved then?
Yes, they did. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
And just so you know, before any of these, because this is a new thing, so that the board is aware, I clear it with Sergeant, I go through Sergeant Dunn, I go through John Fenton, to make sure that there's no issues prior to the approval. The letter comes from me as the village clerk, and it's on village letterhead, and it's sent to both state liquor authority.
Okay. And they approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You probably beer there too, Howie?
Yeah.
So carried. One abstention. Okay, next on the agenda is other business. Coming to the place. The only thing on cloud is the town register appointment. Pat?
The others were village engineer discussion and to set the organization.
Okay, yes, I have that. So this is this is for notification appointment of Registrar of Vital Statistics. The town of Rhinebeck does this for us, and they're asking for John Gauthier, Village of Rhinebeck, 80 East Market Street, Town Clerk at Rhinebeck, New York, addressed to us, and as a Deputy Registrar, Joan Winnie, 80 East Market Street, Rhinebeck, New York, for the same. I make a motion to accept the notification of appointment of Register of Vital Statistics.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can you amend it to a 2-year term, please?
Oh, is that, I know there was talk about that, but I didn't see it in here.
Yeah, the letter that they have is for
Oh,
2
all right.
years.
So I'd like to make an amendment to that we appoint, for notification of appointment of Registrar of Vital Statistics for John Gauthier as the registrar and Joan Winnie as the alternate registrar for a 2-year term.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried, thank you. Let's talk about setting the date. Well, first let's talk about, back up. We had discussions about, in previous, about wanting to go out for RFP for a village engineer. This is part of our reorganization plan where we appoint a village engineer. We need to set a date for that, which we do the first Monday, the first following the first Monday or the following first Monday of April, right? Is that how it's read?
It's the Monday following the first Monday in April following the village election, after 12 o'clock on Monday.
Right, but doesn't necessarily have to be on Monday.
No,
Right,
It doesn't have to be 12 o'clock either.
right. Hour 12 o'clock. So, does the board want to solicit for RFPs for engineer? Because we do that, we need to get that process started.
I was gonna say, and do we have to have a,
And we can hold on this if we want to and not appoint at the reorganization meeting.
I was thinking we could appoint and then shop it, with the condition we're gonna shop it during the year or something, but.
well, I don't think you wanna, I mean, you're not gonna tell somebody, we're gonna appoint you for 6 months, I mean, you're gonna appoint you for the year.
Well, I mean, they're already our village engineer, I was thinking also the attorney.
So, but you're saying we wouldn't go a full year?
We may, no, I mean, when we can get to it, if we don't get this done in time.
No, but when would
It's a full year.
when would we act upon the RFP in 2020? A year from now? Or when?
We would do the work, I think what you're
You
saying. we
mean
would
for
do
what
the-
duration would that be?
We would appoint for next year, next year we would do the shop and then appoint in the next reorg. I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
But I was thinking we could appoint him for 10 months and then maybe not shop it for the next reorg, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, but if we have enough time to shop it for the next year. I mean, it seems like we're.
I just don't think we can get this done.
I don't think.
No, I agree, but it seems like.
So if we got it done in May. then we
I
would-
put this on the agenda because this has been discussed amongst
Right.
several people, so I
Yeah,
wanted to flush it out so we decided what we were gonna do.
So, but I think that we need to think about doing the RFPs, but we're not really ready to do it until the reorganization meeting of 2020. I mean, we can't do it now, we're not gonna get anybody
We're
there.
not gonna get done. I like that idea. Gives us time to request RFPs and,
but then we're going to have these professionals with us for another year, knowing that they're not the best value.
how do you know?
We don't know,
You don't know that.
to get the RFP.
To get the RFPs.
So just let me tell you, warn you, whatever the word is, that when you do the RFPs, you have to have women-owned or minority-owned
Yep.
firms in order for the county to pay for services, engineering services, when you do get the grants. We found that out by mistake, but we did interview women-owned or minority-owned firms when we have, for our current person that we have, for our current engineer. You don't have to hire a women-owned or minority-owned, you just have to go, they have to be part of the interview process.
Which by the EFC grant that I'm working with, we have to have 26% minority contractor for the engineering piece of it. 26%.
Can you do that through subcontractors?
Yeah, we are doing it.
Yeah, that's not our engineer, that's,
Yeah, we comply, but.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think, if my understanding is right, we would put out the RFP through the county, because they have the portal and do that stuff. And then we would get responses, and, I mean, if we don't get a female-owned company or minority response, what happens?
I don't know if that's how it works, what do you think?
I don't know.
I think the RFP is not necessarily, it's not a public bid, so we can actually solicit.
Oh, you can go,
We
okay.
can solicit a handful of people
That's what we did.
familiar with.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, to make sure that it goes out to the public.
But you can go public as well.
You can.
There's nothing to stop you.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the county though.
But then we could get
Just have to prove to
someone,
the county.
some lowballer from Rensselaer that we're not comfortable with.
But we don't have to accept it either.
Not that I have anything against
Portal
Rensselaer.
You're not forced to
those
take
things up to
the low bid.
Right, right.
So,
But we're not
all right,
talking
so
about
we
sand
need
down.
one discussion here.
No.
All right, so one discussion. You guys are having a discussion.
So I think we should continue with, I don't think we can make an RFP in time for these functions before our reorganization meeting. So we should carry on as we're doing, and then in the course of the coming year, we carry on RFPs. We'll have, by hopefully a year from now, we would have an answer and we know which direction we're going.
Any discussion on that recommendation?
I think we could piece it together. I think we could, again, if we got our RFPs completed in May or June, we could make our appointment at the annual meeting for those two parts, engineering and, being on a month-to-month basis are not quite a full year appointment. I don't know.
I feel like,
As of the day, you can always amend a resolution with a resolution.
but I feel like these people do long-term work for us, and they should have some stability, and we know that, that they're there. It's just my.
But if you want to get involved in a project that could take a long term, then what do we do?
Well, then, that issue that they were working on continues to
Stay with them.
continue to stay with them.
Yeah, I seems cleaner.
All right, it sounds like,
Spend some time to learn how we should do this right, I think.
I'm okay with shopping, but I think we need to have time to do it. I tend to want to go with Trustee Lewis' proposal that we work on it, and then if we need to change, we can probably address it by changing it mid-year if we have to, or whenever, right? So
That's what I'm kind of getting at, yeah.
So,
we
but
can't
right
change it
now,
mid-year if we have.
our recommendation would be to appoint, a village engineer and a village attorney at the reorganization meeting, and then address this issue
Yeah,
throughout the year.
okay. yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
It can't be done between now and
No.
the new work, so.
All right, so now we need to set the date for the organizational meeting, which is the first Monday after the election at 12 noon. Does not have to be at 12 noon, does not have to be the first Monday. We currently have it, we booked it last year. We set the date for
The second,
April 2nd.
the first Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
But there's a meeting that night,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
So
planning board and tree commission both.
So we would need to do it early. The tree commission would be downstairs.
Right, we could do it early because the
Planning board.
planning board's at 7. We could actually do it earlier because it's, last year I looked to see how long how long the reorg meeting was, and it's a short meeting.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion that we hold it on April 2nd, but we do it early at 6 PM to allow for the other meetings to continue.
That will conflict with the tree meeting.
You'll have to step out for 15 minutes.
Okay, because that's just an important one because of the planning for the planting.
Unless you want to propose another date.
How long did the meeting take?
Last year was 10 minutes.
Oh,
We should really, I don't think we
okay,
theoretically
fine.
have covered.
Okay. What's our tree meeting? 6.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? So carried, very good. All right, Pat, we have a lot of correspondence.
I did.
I don't know if you want to read it because they're all on file.
It's all on file in my office.
Unless anybody has any questions about any of the correspondence?
I had some question about the road closure with the fairgrounds. Is that different this year
Yes,
than
so
it used to be?
that has been removed from the agenda because we still need to resolve with the zoning enforcement officer the signage issue. So it was originally put on the agenda, but it's now been tabled until the next meeting, till we get through the discussion of signage.
Okay,
So it'll be next month.
so we can talk about it next month?
Yes.
With the neighbor correspondence? and
Yes,
things?
yes.
Okay.
And what we have, the correspondence is on file for you to read.
No, I just had my own question about it.
Yeah, but we can discuss that, we'll be discussing that next month.
Okay,
Unfortunately, we had to remove it because of the signage,
okay.
all right? And that was a very last minute thing. Okay.
There was one other
Ms. Moore?
from Thomas Drohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Bailey. It was the legal fees, because you have to sign it and you had wanted. Can you
Yes,
pass that
sorry.
down, please?
Sure.
And I didn't get Linda Stanley or Joan
That's what we're looking at right now.
Trombini's.
Minor
It was a
blank,
blank.
It doesn't pop up.
They came up blank.
Yeah,
I'll reload them. I have them all in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, please see Pat's reference. All right, so next is from our labor attorney, which is Thomas Drohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Maley. As they have done every year, they send us a letter. This is dated March 7th, 2019. Dear Mayor Bassett, about this time each year, we advise clients of any anticipated changes in fees for the coming year. For the period of July 1st, 2019 through July 30th, 2020, they will propose a $5 increase for our hourly rates to provide legal services to the village of Rhinebeck. Under the proposal, the hourly rate for attorneys will increase from $205 to $210 an hour, and the hourly rate for paralegal services will increase from $95 to $100. A minimum of 1/4 of an hour shall be billed for each service performed. Their bills will describe work and time spent on services. The village is entitled upon request to any files in our possession relating to the legal services provided by the firm for the village, excluding our internal accounting records and other documents not reasonably necessary to the village representation, subject to our right to make copies of any files withdrawn by the village. Under our document retention policy, we normally destroy files 9 years after a matter is closed, with the exception of these documents identified by our attorneys to be exempt from destruction unless other arrangements are made with the client. If this proposal is accepted to you, I would appreciate you presenting it to the trustees for review. I have enclosed a duplicate copy for signature to the board. Now this falls into the other same category. So this would be an appointment, which we appoint the labor attorney at the reorganization meeting. They're asking for approval now, and
So about 2.5%?
we've been using them regularly. I'll be honest with you, as you know, we've had a lot of issues over the past 2 years, both personnel-related issues that required labor intervention. And we've also negotiated our union contract. They represent us negotiating our union contract. They've been very thorough, very helpful, and they're responsive to us when we make the request. Not only the legal services, but the paralegal as well have been very supportive. There's been many, as we resolved county, even any civil service-related issues, the call-in contractor-related issues, any labor-related issues, and any union contract issues. That's what this firm has done for us over the past 2 years, and I don't have any issue with the service, the level of service that we've been provided.
And how much are they raising then?
$5.
Seems like about 2.5%, right? Not 200.
So it goes.
They held the line the last couple of years, didn't they?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember that.
No, I think I remember.
It's pretty close to what the
Surprised.
wage increase was for our employees, so.
That's true. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept Thomas, Trohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Maley for our labor attorneys for the upcoming year through June 30th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Very good. Okay. Pat, is there anything else that we missed?
Yes. Under correspondence, there's also, speaking of our labor attorney, New York State has changed the policy, again, the discrimination and harassment policy, and NICOM has suggested that municipalities update our harassment policies because it has to be more specific. And so they've given us a sample of a policy, and I had gotten an email from Melissa Knapp, that she's the attorney with Stu Waxman's office, that if she wanted us to review it, because regarding litigations and things in this whole atmosphere of the state, it's recommended for municipalities to get a tighter policy. So I needed to have, because this would be a billable expense if we want her to review our policy and to update our policy.
I think we have to do it.
No, we have a harassment from our insurance carrier as well, correct?
They've
Yes. So
yeah.
we have an existing one. This would enhance upon what is existing.
Right. Everywhere has said, and I can't remember if this one is the one I had gotten from NYMER or not, but I have New York State's and I have NYMER's, but I need to have somebody tell me which one is the way we should go.
It's an hour or two of work.
Probably.
Well, can we get an estimate? I mean, that is part of
Yeah, I can ask her.
ask her approximately how many hours, and well, we know the rate, how many hours it will take.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, but then do I have to wait another month to come back to the board and
You
then see?
could just email us all, and then
Or we have a meeting coming up.
we have a meeting in
We
2
have a meeting
weeks.
coming up on the budget, we could do it at that time.
Okay, I'm not there, so I will send an email.
Okay,
Good, thank you.
all right,
And also the minutes, everyone had gotten the minutes.
yes.
Yes.
That's the last.
So we have minutes for 219, budget workshop, and 220, and there's 3 in here, you have the
Yes.
draft and the budget,
It's-
workshop again.
Village clerk's minutes on the 19th,
I see,
village
yeah.
treasurer's minutes on the 19th, and then village treasurer's on the 26th.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted for the workshops, for the budget workshop on 219 and 226.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Thank you. Okay, that gets us down to the end. I also, part of what I've been liking to do is recognize those people who work for the Village of Rhinebeck and their services that they provide. And so that this time we have a very extensive list of people have anniversaries in February and March of this year. I'd first like to recognize Police Officer Pete Palin for 16 years. Motor Equipment Operator Carl Delfino, 3 years. Deputy Clerk Chrissy Deneau for 5 years. Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator Justin Drabak, 12 years. Wastewater Treatment Plant Chief Operator Brian Bacamo, 3 years. Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator Scott Rathjen, 3 years. Police Officer Darren Bondor, 15 years. And our County Clerk Trisha Giacolone for 12 years. This is an outstanding record of service for all of our employees here at the Village of Rhinebeck who come in here every day and make the village run smoothly. So I thank you all for your service. Thank you for your time and your commitment. Okay. That ends the meeting for today. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 8:52.
Close to a record.
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried.
All right.
A lot quicker than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.